y'all, it's Crystal. Thanks for coming by today. Let's wrap up February because February is just done and dusted and we're into March now. So yeah, let's talk about February. February was a weird month for me. It started off like real solid. Like I was starting off with a bang. I had a really good month. And then the sort of second half, I was in like Slump City. So it was a weird month for me. So I didn't read, I've read plenty of things, but you know, this purposeful slowdown that I've been doing of reading is noticeable when I look at like sort of the total things that I read every month now, which is fine for me. Again, it was my point of being, you know, again, purposefully slowing down. And I did some other fun things too. So let's talk about it. We're going to start with books first. So if you're not interested in other things I chat about, you can click away. It's totally fine. Let's talk about reading. I started off with a bang with reading A Simple Plan by Scott Smith. Buddy read this with Ollie over at Criminale. We both really loved this book. It's just so good. And it's a simple story too, but it was just so well written. Yeah, I really loved it. You know, this group of guys find this like crashed plane out in the woods, and they find this big sack of money in it. And we're talking like millions of dollars, like a lot of money. And they hatch this plan, which I think is a simple plan, to be able to keep the money. We know it's not going to end well because anytime you're not gonna keep millions of dollars. You know, it's not going to happen. And so you follow these characters, two of which are brothers, and so there's this real sort of like dynamic between these brothers, which I thought was really interesting in the story. But as they just kind of keep making decisions after decisions, mostly bad decisions, which will snowball and lead to horrific things that they do, and yeah, oh my gosh. Anyway, it was great. So well written. It was very tense. It kept me just turning the pages. Like I had to figure out what was gonna happen next. You know, and yeah, it was great. Highly recommend it. I don't have the physical book with me now. I said my husband's actually reading it right now. I said, you gotta read this one. I think you really like it. You know, he's not a super big reader, but he reads, you know, a few books a year kind of thing. So he's making his way through this one. Anyway, it was great. Highly recommend it. So good. Great start to the month. I then dug into some book recommendations. I did post a vlog about this. I'll link that below if you would like to check it out, to get sort of further thoughts on any of these that I talk about. But I reached out to the author Brian Bowyer, who I really, really like, indie author, horror author, that I really like his books. And I reached out to him to, you know, get some book recommendations from him. I said they could be like some of your favorite books or books you think are underrated, whatever. And so he sent me a little list of his favorite books. No pressure. But they were all excellent. I mean, he gave me some great recommendations. And the first of which was finally, I made myself read The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum. Most, you know, horror fans in general, of course, know this story, but it was excellent and hard to read. Very hard to read. It is not an easy one to read. There's so much torture and violence of a child in this book. But you know, most horrifically, I think, is that we know it's based on a true story, which is just like, but I do think Jack Ketchum, you know, his writing is always excellent, and he handled this, I think, really well, particularly with the point of view, by it being from the kid next door. So we're, you know, our point of view is from this young, I think it's 12-year-old, you know, guy next door, and just how this sort of group, you know, all these people just came together to torture this woman. And hard read, very well done though. Glad I finally read it. Don't think I'll ever read it again. but it was great. It was really great. 5 stars. And then I read Wormwood by Poppy Z. Brite, aka Billy Martin. This is a collection of short stories that were all excellent. They were excellent. They were so good. You know, very typical, you know, kind of Brite writing, dark. Did I mention dark? Yeah, dark, moody, very atmospheric, violent at times, sexual at times, lots of interesting kind of outsider type characters. Just all the stories in here were fantastic, which is, you know, you don't always say about short story collections. You know, sometimes you get some duds in there, but I loved every single one of these. This is a 5-star short story collection for me, for sure. It's so good. I I love this author. Become an all-time fave for me, I think, for sure, after now reading. This is like my fourth book. Even though short stories, but yeah, I think of the fourth now that I've read. So yeah, I'm down. I need to just complete at this point and go and read them all now at this point. Anyway, I then dug into Books of Blood. Now I didn't finish this entire volume, but I did read volume 1, and why have I not read Books of Blood yet? I don't flipping know, but holy hell, this was great. So like I said, I read volume 1, loved these stories. I really love these stories, particularly Midnight Meat Train. Yeah. Yattering in the Jack, which is like this like comedy, this, I don't know, really dark comedy one. It was great. But my favorite, Pig Blood Blues by far. Holy moly, I love that story. I think it's probably, I don't know, dare I say, the best short story I've ever read. That's saying a lot, because I've read a lot of short stories in my life. I will not forget Pig Blood Blues. Let me tell you, like, holy crap, I loved it so much. So dark. So dark and strange. I loved these stories. So glad I finally read it. So, volume 1 of Books of Blood, I would give a 5-star to, honestly. Let's be honest. So, okay, so then after those, I did read a couple of Brian's books because I didn't want to, read some of his books too. And so I read a short story called Scarlet, which is really great, following this woman who kind of gets this connection to this painting and how it might possibly link to a killer. I won't say much more. It's a short story. You can get it, hopefully it's still on KU. If you have KU, I would definitely recommend it. It was really good. And then Kill Factor, which I really enjoyed. Also, let me check. I should have checked before, but Kill Factor, I believe, was picked up recently to be published by an independent publisher. So I don't know that right now it's on KU, but at the time I read it was on KU. Which I'm really excited that it's got picked up for publishing. I think this one and maybe one of his other books. I'll correct anything down in the bottoms, but so I'm really excited for that. But Kill Factor was great. It's very typical kind of Brian Bowyer story. These outsider type characters that are have some violent tendencies, and this one had this sort of family that lived in this sort of big house, and they perhaps maybe have some connections to the dark arts, and how this other character kind of bumbles into it, and things aren't gonna end well. Like I always say, you cannot get attached to any characters in a Brian Bowyer book because you don't ever know who's gonna make it out. So just be warned. But it was great. It was a really fun time. Really enjoyed that one. So that's kind of where I ended that vlog with Brian's recommendations. And I want to, again, I'll link, like I said, he has a YouTube channel below. Go check him out there. He's a fantastic storyteller. He has lived a hell of a life. So go listen to some of his stories there. He's great. Read his books. They're fantastic. I'm pro Brian here. Okay. And then, it was after that point though that I felt kind of the weirdness coming in, the schlumpiness was moving in, and then so I didn't read for like several days at all, and then I was like, and it was fine though. I was doing other things, but it was Valentine's Day rolled around, so I said, let me kind of read some like smutty Valentine stories. So I read some smutty Valentine short stories. We'll talk about them real quick here. One was Claimed by Cupid by Autumn Hart. It's a Cupid story, so and it was okay. And it was okay. I'll say it was okay. I read One Night on Valentine's Day by Thea Masen. This one I really liked. Yeah, I really liked this one. I don't know. I'm just gonna say that I really liked that one a lot. And then my Valentines Mate by Hannah Altagracia, and that one was fun too. It was okay. So I read some smutty Valentine stories, and then I did. Kind of was in the love mood still, so I read volume 3 of Cherry Magic. This is by Yuu Toyota, and this one, like, our characters, it was cute because, as we left off volume 2, the characters are kind of like living are like sharing their living space right now due to circumstances, because of course they are, you know. And so there's this kind of like, yeah, they're having some like things going on. Like, I don't know how to explain. It's volume 3 of a story, so I'm not gonna say too much. But I'm continuing to really enjoy these. I just love these characters so much. It's just really fun. They're just so much fun and so cute and sweet. And Cherry Magic volume 3, I loved it. Okay, then I finished out the month with Wonder by RJ Pallacio. This is our book club pick for the Death by TBR book club. And I'm so glad I finally read this one. I really am. It was one I kept procrastinating on years and years and years and years, because I just didn't know how I was going to respond to it. But I'm pretty impressed with this one. So we're following, you know, our main character is this kid named Augie, and he was, you know, born with a very, 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 very rare genetic condition. And it means that he has a very sort of physical, you know, difference to his, particularly his face in general. And he does have a hearing loss, which comes into play kind of midway through the story as well, in which he needs to get hearing aids as well. You know, because of all this stuff that he went through sort of in his early parts of his life, particularly a lot of surgeries, poor thing went through so many surgeries, he didn't go to like traditional school. He didn't go to school like his mom homeschooled him. And but he's got an age now, you know, and then, you know, where his parents are kind of at that, there's this, you know, this pull of like, maybe it's time for him to go to school, and but also like this need to protect at the same time. So they make the decision, and they you know, Augie's going to start school, you know, this next year. And at first, of course, he's kind of, I think, definitely terrified, because he knows how people are when they see him. And but once he kind of gets to the school, you know, he's excited about going to school too, because he's a really smart kid and loves to learn and loves science, and he's a really smart kid. His disability is not one that's affects him intellectually at all. It's, you know, pretty just a medical kind of physical thing for him. So he's excited about school too, but, you know, it's this, you know, it's a feeling of both things, you know, of being scared but also excited kind of thing, you know. Anyway, so what I really loved about this is the different perspectives. You're not just getting the story told from Augie. You get a story. There's this, you know, a point of view from his sister, who is an older sister. She's high school age. A couple of his friends that he meets at the school. Maybe somebody else. Anyway, and then more of Augie, I think, yeah. And I really liked that, because what it did was, when you're at Augie's perspective, of course, you like how living as Augie, right? And that's what really struck me the most, particularly how he talked about how people are look at him all the time, and like he knows, he like, I see you looking, I see you when you try not to look and you're looking anyway, you know, like I notice, like you know, like hello, right? That kind of thing. How that makes him feel, you know, that kind of thing. How people sometimes literally like gasp and scream when they see him, you know. Yeah, so I love all that. I love his feeling, just this feeling from Augie, of it felt very realistic how someone would feel, so especially some of the things that happened to him at school. I just feel like there's this one scene where he really kind of gets, they're off on this field trip, and the kid from another school, like, oh my god, like tries to beat him up and stuff. Like, it's really hard scene. It was a really hard part to read. But we know that their kids are just going to be mean assholes, right? And those kids are in here, but there's also the kids that are not, and particularly once they've gotten to know Augie. Like at the first, everyone was kind of like, ooh, you know what I mean? Because it's a brand new school. He didn't grow up. Never went to school with any of these kids, you know. So I feel like I'm rambling, sorry, but anyway, I'm also all over the place. But yeah, once I get to know Augie, you know, everyone's cool by the end of the school year, right? But particularly he makes friends with this one kid, Jack, and Summer, who he really becomes kind of BFFs with, you know. Anyway, that's the one. I also really, like I said, I really appreciated the perspective of his older sister, because she's coming, as a place of love always for Augie, like, because the kid's gone through a lot. And I think a lot of siblings, appreciate and understand that, like, Augie can't help how he was born. He was born this way. Can't help he's needed all these surgeries and gets more attention from the parents. And it's just kind of how it is, And she acknowledges that. She's old enough to know, like, I understand all of that. But there is also this feeling of, well, but, I kind of wish they'd pay more attention to me too. Again, there's just these sort of juxtapositions of feelings that you always feel, I think. So I really liked the perspective of her. And she's also kind of grappling with starting high school, which is, like, again, a whole new thing too. So she's dealing with the new feelings and all that kind of good stuff too. Of course, I always identify with the parents because, again, there's that, wanting to protect your kid because the world can be cruel, but also wanting to push them and let them, push their boundaries and let them step out of their comfort zone because, you want to challenge them because they have to move through this world, So I really appreciated that. I really, at the end of it all, I really did love this book. I think it's definitely one anyone should read. It is, geared towards middle grade, kids. But as a grown-up person, I definitely appreciated, the story. It wasn't overly sweet and, like mushy, which can be a thing when you're talking about disability in particular. It wasn't that. It was very honest with, how the world is a lot of times, but while also acknowledging that there are good things too, like when it's not all sad, like we shouldn't feel so sorry for Augie, like there is empathy that we can have empathy towards Augie, knowing how his life is, but also think that he's a pretty cool little dude, right? So I really appreciated the kind of line that was walked in the story. So yeah, I definitely would recommend it. It was great. I say must read for kids. I think it was written in definitely a way that kids would get a lot from the story too. Just kindness. Like, don't be a jerk. Basically, it's like if you take anything away from this, is like just don't be a turd, right? So yeah, that was Wonder. I loved it. It was great. And that was how I ended the month. So I went from a high to like to another high. So I mean, it was okay. It ended up being okay, right? So that's kind of what I read for the month. So if you want to click away now, you can. I'm going to talk a little bit about some things that I watched this month, because again, making that time for other things is one of my goals for the year. So let's talk about a few things. I did rewatch Edward Scissorhands this month. I hadn't watched it in years. Why is it still so good? I don't know. It's still so good. I love that character so much. I think it might be Johnny Depp's best role, honestly. He plays this innocent, naive character so perfectly. And how much do I now love the mom in this movie? Like, I always loved her, but watching it this time around, oh God, I love her. It was Diane Wiest, it's the actor. Oh my God, I love her so much. I loved Edward Scissorhands. It was great. If you haven't watched it in a long time, or if you've never watched it, please watch it. It's so good. A couple of Discord watch parties, particularly for Andrew over at Came for the Pages Patreon. He does a weird movie club. He did a couple of group watch parties for us this month. Hellraiser 3 we watched on Valentine's Day, actually. That was good. It was crazy. I don't know, it's Hellraiser 3. I don't know, what are you going to talk about it for? But it was a fun watch. And then most recently, just the other night, we watched Godzilla versus King Ghidorah. This is a 90s Godzilla movie. It was great. I thought it was really a lot of fun. Godzilla and then King Ghidorah. There's time travel in this one. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I liked it a lot. I watched a couple of short films. There's a channel on here called, I'm not going to remember the name because I'm trying to think of it. Sweetberry, I think's the name. I'll link it below. That has Korean BL and GL, a lot of short movies and some series. But the short films have all been really excellent. So this month I watched Please Tell Me So, which is a little love story with these two guys. And then Graduation, Present and Propose, which is a little love story between these two girls, one of which has just graduated high school. And it's her and a friend of hers that is younger, so she hasn't graduated yet. But they're talking after graduation, and they're like, you know, kind of, it's almost like a confession, like, I like you, you know. And then she's like, but you're going to go away to college. Can you wait for me another year till I get to college, and then we can be together? It was so cute. It was so cute. Really sweet. I finished watching Duna. I started this one, gosh, maybe a couple months ago. This is on Netflix. It is another Korean show. I don't only watch Korean things, but I do enjoy Korean things, so whatever. I really liked Duna by the end of it all. And so this is, just really quickly, like I said, it's a series on Netflix, and the couple main characters. So Duna is actually a K-pop idol, and she kind of had this sort of mental break, you know, and so she's taken a break from the group, and so she's kind of moved into this little kind of shared house situation, just to kind of get a break, right? She's dealing with some stuff. And then the main male character is a college student, and who is moving to the city to get closer to the university, and, you know, study, right? And he moves into the same house. It's not like love sparks right away, though. It starts out, you know, them just kind of talking, and it, you know, develops. It does develop into a bit of a love affair, but it's just, I don't know. It was really good. There's also some really great supporting characters that are kind of dealing with other things. There's one character in particular who's dealing with, like, her dad's really abusive, so she's dealing with that. Anyway, and again, learning with the Duna, you know, definitely kind of taps into some of the things with the K-pop industry, and mental health, and how stressful it can be, how hard it can be. She has a very narcissistic mother who was not good. Yeah, I don't know. It tackled some really tough things, and wasn't overly saccharine. And the ending, you know, was great. It wasn't a sweet, sappy ending, but I really loved it. I thought it was really great. And yeah, it was great. I loved it. And then another Korean BL show I just binged. It was Love for Love's Sake. Another really great series that really kind of tackled some tough subjects. Particularly kind of like, if you were given a second chance, would you take it? So we're following this guy who, in the beginning, you know, he's about to reach 30, I think. So he's, you know, he's kind of at that age, and he's talking to this guy. So he gets kind of transported back to high school, and it's almost like he's trapped in this kind of like a game situation almost. Where he has these tasks that he has to complete, which is to make this other character happy, and a kind of love situation, you know, develops with them. But really, it's about, again, you know, there are some suicidal things in here. I just want to mention that as well. But so if you're given like a second chance, would you do things differently? Could you be happier in your life if you had the chance to do it all over again? These kinds of things. It was really talked about in this show. I thought it was excellent. It was really good. Yeah, it was great. So those are things that I finished watching this month, and that was great. So I'm still in the middle of watching DFF, the like horror thriller show, the Thai show. I'm flipping loving it. I'm obsessed with it. There's only, I think, 2 more episodes. 1 more episode. I think 2 more episodes. I don't even know now. I don't know. It's so good. So loving DFF, still watching Hometown Cha Cha Cha, which is a Korean show on Netflix. Enjoying that. It's so super cute and sweet, but not just super cute and sweet. It's really good too. I think that's all I'm in the middle of currently watching. So having a good time with my watching things. yeah, so that's kind of about it, I guess. You know, I've been kind of keeping track of K-pop things as I'm spending time with it. I did a deep dive this month into the group Extraordinary Heroes, which are kind of a rock group from a Korean rock group. Really enjoyed that. Definitely became a fan. Top hits for the month, definitely the Tens solo album, Chef's Kiss. It was amazing. They got Twice come back, P1 Harmony come back. It was a good month. It was a really great month for K-pop. I scored tickets to the P1 Harmony concert. Yeah, it's gonna be a couple of months. I'm so excited. Yeah, good month for music. Had a fun time watching my shows. Overall, I had a really great reading month, even though I didn't read a whole lot, you know. So it was a good month. It was a good month, even though it was a little schlumpy at times. I'm rambling. So that's going to do it for me. Thanks for watching. Let me know what all you got into for February. You know, what you're watching, what you're reading, what you're listening to. I want to know. And that's going to do it for me, guys. I'll catch you in the next one, all right? Bye.